A Himalayan river rose by as much as 9 meters in only 30 minutes. Hundreds were killed. More than 1,000 people were reported missing, and travelers from more than 30 countries were caught in the disaster. But this was not simply another city flood after heavy rain. The leading preliminary explanation begins high above the valley. Ice and rock may have collapsed from a glacier, blocked a river for a short time, and then released a wall of water, mud, and debris. The disaster struck near Nepal's border with Tibet, where narrow valleys feed the Lhende Khola and Trishuli River systems. Video from downstream shows a dark, violent surge tearing through roads, bridges, and buildings. The most important part of the story, however, may have happened much higher up, beyond the reach of most cameras. Scientists studying satellite images say a large ice rock mass appears to have broken from a glacier on the Nepalese side. It crashed into the Lhende Khola Valley and may have temporarily dammed the river. Picture a natural barrier built not from concrete, but from an unstable mix of ice, boulders, and earth. Water collects behind it. Pressure rises. Then the barrier fails. That sequence could explain why the river changed so violently. The surge carried far more than water. Rock, sediment, trees, and pieces of infrastructure were pushed downstream together. Hydrological observations captured the speed. At Galchi, the Trishuli rose by as much as 9 meters in about half an hour. That is close to the height of a 3-story building, appearing in less time than many commuters need to reach work. The human impact quickly became international. This is not an empty mountain corridor. Local residents and workers share it with tourists and pilgrims traveling toward Mount Kailash, a sacred destination across the border in Tibet. Roads and communications were cut. Bridges were destroyed. People from more than 30 countries appeared on missing person lists. Nepal created a dedicated emergency response team to verify information about foreign nationals and coordinate consular help. The Ukrainian figure makes that international exposure painfully clear. As of the morning of August 27th, Ukraine's foreign ministry said 55 Ukrainian citizens were missing. At that snapshot, it had no confirmed information that any Ukrainian had been killed or injured. Those numbers can change rapidly as communications return and rescue teams reach isolated areas. This is where the evidence boundary matters. The 9-meter rise in 30 minutes was observed. The destruction and multinational search are confirmed, but investigators are still rebuilding the exact sequence in the upper valley from satellite and ground data. An ice rock avalanche, a temporary blockage, and a sudden breach form a strong preliminary assessment, not a completed official finding. Reports of a small earthquake do not establish that an earthquake caused the flood. There is also a wider warning in the background. Himalayan ice is changing quickly, and high mountain slopes can become less stable. Water can collect in places that did not exist before. That does not prove that climate change directly caused this specific collapse. It does mean a warming, shifting landscape can create more combinations in which ice, rock, and water suddenly move as one destructive system. This is why the disaster matters beyond its death toll. It reveals a kind of danger that is difficult to see from the towns below. The trigger can begin far above populated areas without prolonged rain over the streets that are eventually hit. A natural dam can form and fail before communities understand what is coming. The flood can cross a border and isolate entire valleys in minutes. For the families of the missing, the priority now is verified information, not speculation. Nepal's authorities have asked people to rely on official channels and avoid circulating unconfirmed lists. We will update the story when the identities and the cause are confirmed. What was underestimated most here? The unstable glacier, the fragility of the mountain route, or the speed of the warning system? Tell us in the comments. And if you want the verified mechanism behind the most dramatic footage, not just the footage itself, subscribe to catch this.